according to a new study that was done by Intrix, the traffic company, they say that it's no longer 9 to 5s, it's 10 to 4. Now, they're studying traffic patterns, but this seems to fall in line with what we understand about coffee badging, which is when you go to work for a few hours a day, and that seems to be tolerated. You're no longer working the full 8 hours. Why is this being tolerated? Why are companies allowing for the short workday to become the new normal? Joe, is it because the kids these days?
I have a pretty quick theory that companies really must be doing okay. And by okay, I mean good. Otherwise, wouldn't they? I think that their current crop of employees, they must think that they're the best they're going to have. So they need to put up with them only coming to the office for a few hours a day. Otherwise, they would try to demand more.
Yeah, listen, that was succinctly put. And so let's go to news with Becky and Lynn. Very good.
Thank you. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Let me expound on that a little bit because I agree with your point. I'm far more verbose in making the same point.
You'll make some analogies and add a lot of color and flower.
So I agree that they must feel like these are the best employees that they've got. Yep, absolutely. And really, we're in an employee market right now, right? Unemployment rate is still just a little over 4%, but it's still an employee market. And if you're a good employee, employers want you, and they want to retain you, right? And having an employee that shows up, even if it's just to give a little FaceTime and then bounce, again, 90s term, is really better than a no-call, no-show employee. Joe, you're a manager in the building, right? I mean, Wouldn't you? The first thing about having an employee is, are they going to show up?
That's rule number one, show up.
Rule number one, you got to show up, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like the times they are a-changing, right? In the 50s and 60s, think about this. Everyone wore a suit to the office. Every man wore a suit to the office. And if they wore a coat, it had to have a collared shirt underneath. Not like Joe's, I'm about to make an arrangement with a waste management company in New Jersey, and maybe we'll get rid of somebody. I see we're going with that look. Is this the new brand, by the way?
Day 3, yeah. Day 3 of
day 3 of the sport coat with the white T-shirt underneath.
It's great. The office is very split. There's some who love it and some who hate it.
I will tell you it's growing on me.
I don't care which side you're on. As long as you've got a strong opinion on it, I'm going to keep doing it.
It's growing on me.
Good.
But remember, everybody had to wear the suit, right? Mad Men, we all wore suits to the office. And every woman wore a dress or a skirt. But now, think about the jobs that require a dress code like that. Not very many, right? Lawyers, politicians, news anchors.
No, even our big bosses, they wear polo shirts.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, you're hard-pressed to find somebody wearing even a jacket, except for Joe, of course, because he's on the big jacket kick lately. But even those professionals don't wear their coats all day. They only don those things when it's necessary. When they're headed into the courtroom, when they're about to sit down at the anchor desk, right? When they're about to go into the chambers to vote. Or if you're John Fetterman, you still don't wear a coat, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, times are changing. And just like dress codes have changed, productivity hasn't declined. So I feel like society is looking for new ways to maintain a balance between that productivity and employee satisfaction. And heavy-handed work requirements, they don't do the trick.
So wouldn't that just be about dress codes, though? Wouldn't they just say, hey, you can come to work in jersey and basketball shorts if you want to? But they're actually saying you don't need to even spend as much time in the office.
Yeah. So, but follow my analogy here is what happened was employees didn't like doing it that way.
Okay.
And as long as productivity didn't change, the company was okay with allowing the employees to do however they saw fit to make things happen.
All right.
Likewise, as long as productivity doesn't change, as long as their productivity maintains a level that is satisfactory to the company, then they're worried about the results and not the policy. Whether it's dress code, whether it's the hours that you work, a lot of companies are saying we're willing to work flexible hours. My wife's company is one, right? She works at a company where they have people all over. They work from home. They work all over the country, and they basically can determine. Now they have to determine their hours and then show up for those hours. They can't just float in at 7 o'clock one day and at 10 o'clock the next day. But just the same, they can kind of set their own hours. Let me give you a sports analogy because I know you love these.
I do.
The OTAs, right? You're familiar with those in football.
Yeah, what are they? Is it organized team activities, off-season team activities?
I think it's organized team activity. It used to be optional training camp or something like that, but now it's organized team activities. And I think about somebody like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, I think that's a name everybody knows. I don't need to explain it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Aaron Rodgers this year, instead of going to OTAs, he disappeared to Egypt. It was an unexcused absence. His coach called him out in the media and said, it's an unexcused absence. We don't know where he is. But what are the Jets going to do? Bench him? If he takes the JETS to the Super Bowl, he's going to prove the point that it's all about performance and not about what time he shows up to work. Now, if he comes out looking like he's average, all of a sudden he might be announcing his retirement at the end of the season. As long as performance is there, as long as results are there, the company doesn't care how you get there. But it's not just sports either.
Well, can I stop you for a second,
please, please.
I agree with you with Aaron Rodgers. That makes sense. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He won a Super Bowl. But let's just say you're John in accounting. Isn't John in accounting a lot more expendable than Aaron Rodgers? I mean, there's only how many good quarterbacks, whereas there's thousands of accountants, right?
Depends on how much you're paying John in accounting. Depends on the job John does. Depends on how many bodies John knows are buried somewhere. All of these different things can contribute to it. And if the company says, we like John, he's been a loyal employee, he's a good guy, we're going to cut him some slack, and John gets the work done, he doesn't complain, he contributes to a good work culture when he is here, why would you want to get rid of him?
You don't think that they're thinking, well, John has been doing okay, but if we brought in Chase right out of ASU and brought him into accounting, he's going to be $10,000 cheaper, and we could work him to the grindstone for at least the next 40 to 50 years and get so much more productivity out of him.
Sure, unless Chase knows that he doesn't have to. And Chase says, I'll take $10,000 less, but I'm coming in from 10 to 4, not 9 to 5.
Yeah, Chase is probably one of those Gen Zers who's going to coffee badger his way to the least hours possible.
Yeah, the kids these days.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So I think of a lot of people that spend their days networking instead of just hacking away at a keyboard, right? So think about the big salesperson. They're on the golf course 3 days a week with clients, but they bill $1 million a month. So who's going to whine about coffee badging if they're bringing in $1 million a month? Yeah, they could probably grab Chase out of ASU, but he's probably not going to bill $1 million a month to start with. No. Here's a true story. My wife hired a lobbyist. Her company did. They paid the lobbyist about $10,000 a month and give him a 1-year contract. His job was to make introductions between the sales team and lawmakers. And the company had been trying to get their attention for years to become a licensed provider in that state. And I'm not going to tell you which state, but it's a western state and it's not Arizona. So the lobbyist literally sent an email to introduce the two sides, and because of that, the lawmaker took the meeting. 3 months later, the company had a contract with the state's Medicaid program. So my wife is super frustrated, says that's a giant waste of $100,000. The CEO thought, well, that's $100,000 well spent. And I guarantee that lobbyist didn't come into the office to coffee badge in order to send that email. Mm-hmm. Because it's about performance over policy. In other words, nobody complains when you've got a top performer in the office that keeps bringing in the bucks but doesn't toil away at their cubicle for hours on end. In fact, maybe they have to pay for less office space and put in fewer cubicles.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.